The glass walls of the top-floor boardroom shook with the storm outside, but inside the air was even colder. Ava Hart stood at the end of the long table with 20 pairs of eyes cutting into her like knives. The city lights behind them looked blurry through the rain. Her palms were damp. Her throat was tight. She could taste metal like fear had a flavor. On the screen behind her, her name glowed in harsh white letters. Ava Hart. Unauthorized transfer. $250,000. Someone slid a folder across the table. It stopped right in front of her, like it had been pushed by the hand of a judge. "You have 1 minute," the chair of the board said, voice flat, tired, like he'd already decided. Ava's lips parted. No sound came out at first. Her heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to climb out of her ribs. She looked down at the papers and saw her employee ID number, her login time, and a signature that wasn't hers. "It's not mine," she finally said, and even she hated how small her voice sounded. "I didn't do this." A soft laugh came from somewhere on her left. Not kind. Not amused. Like a blade sliding out of a sheath. Ava turned her head and saw Victoria Shaw, the CFO, sitting there with perfect posture, perfect hair, and a mouth that always looked like it was holding back a smile. "Of course you didn't," Victoria said. "You're just unlucky, I guess." Ava's eyes stung. She blinked fast. If she cried, they would eat her alive. "You were the last person to access the account," the chair said. "Your credentials were used." "My credentials can be stolen," Ava insisted. "Someone could. And you expect us to believe," Victoria cut in smoothly, "that a company with the best security money can buy was hacked, just to frame you?" Ava's breath caught. Because that was exactly what had happened. But how do you prove a ghost? A door opened behind her. Quiet. Heavy. Ava didn't turn at first, because no one interrupted a board meeting on the 50th floor unless they were either stupid or powerful enough not to care. Footsteps crossed the room, slow, controlled, like whoever walked didn't need to rush for anyone. Then a voice filled the space. "Put the folder down." The entire room shifted. Chairs creaked. People straightened. Ava turned. He stood near the door in a dark suit, rain on his shoulders like he'd walked through the storm without flinching. His jaw was tight. His eyes were colder than the glass walls. The kind of eyes that didn't ask for permission. Ethan Bennett. The strict CEO. The man everyone feared. And the man Ava had spent one reckless night with 2 months ago. In a hotel room that smelled like champagne and heat and bad decisions. Ethan's gaze locked on hers for half a second. Half a second was all it took for her stomach to drop. Because his face didn't show surprise. Showed something else. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. Victoria's smile widened, just slightly. "Mr. Bennett," she said, sweet as poison. "We weren't expecting you." Ethan walked to the head of the table without looking at anyone. He placed a hand on the back of the chair and leaned in, as if the entire board belonged to him. As if the air belonged to him. "I'm here," he said, "because you're about to fire my wife." Silence hit the room like a slap. Ava's blood turned to ice. "Wife." The word floated in her head like a sound she couldn't understand. The chair blinked. "Your wife." Ethan didn't take his eyes off Ava. "Ava Hart. My wife." Ava's lips parted again. Her knees felt weak. The room tilted. Victoria's calm cracked for the first time. Just a hairline fracture in her perfect mask. Ava could barely breathe. Because she knew Ethan Bennett didn't say things he didn't mean. And if he was calling her his wife in a room full of sharks, then either he was saving her, or he was about to destroy her in a way she couldn't even imagine. Ava didn't understand how her life had ended up here, on the edge of ruin, with the most powerful man in the building claiming her like a secret. But this was the truth. 2 months ago, she'd thought that night with Ethan was a mistake she could bury. She was wrong. Because Ethan Bennett didn't bury secrets. He used them. And in the end, the person who set this trap for Ava would learn something the hard way. Karma didn't knock. Kicked the door down. Ava would find out why Ethan chose her that night. Why he vanished the next morning. Why he'd watched her from a distance with those cold eyes like he was measuring her. And the biggest shock wasn't that the strict CEO had become her husband. It was that the person who smiled at her every day, the person she called her best friend, had been holding the match the entire time. She thought the danger was in the boardroom. But the real danger was in her heart. And when the truth finally came out, it would destroy one life and save another. It started like most disasters do, with a small decision that felt harmless. 2 months earlier, Ava Hart was just trying to survive. Her world was a tiny apartment with thin walls, a second-hand couch that smelled like old laundry, and a kitchen table that wobbled if you leaned on it. Her mornings started before sunrise. She'd make cheap coffee, stare at the steam, and try to convince herself she wasn't drowning. Bills piled up like threats. Her mother's medical costs were the worst of it. Her mom lived 3 states away, and every phone call felt like holding your breath. "Ava," her mom would say, voice weak but always trying to sound strong. "Don't worry about me, honey." Ava would swallow hard. "I'm not worried," she'd lie. "I'm fine." She wasn't fine. She was 26, exhausted, and working 2 jobs. During the day, she was an executive assistant at Bennett and Crown Holdings, one of the biggest companies in the city. At night, she waited tables at a place that smelled like fried food and cheap beer. She had dreams once. College, a career, a life that didn't feel like an emergency. But dreams were expensive. Then there was Chloe Bennett. Chloe was sunshine. Loud laughter, bright clothes, easy confidence. She wore expensive perfume like she was born into it. 'Cause she was. Chloe was the CEO's little sister. And somehow she had decided Ava was her person. They'd met at work when Ava had spilled coffee on herself the first week. Ava had wanted to disappear. Chloe had handed her a clean blazer from her own office and said, "You look like you're about to cry. Let's not do that. Come on. Lunch." From that day, Chloe pulled Ava into her orbit like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You work too hard," Chloe would tell her, twisting her hair around a finger. "You need to live a little." Ava would smile politely. "Some of us don't have trust funds." Chloe would roll her eyes. "Not everything is about money, Ava." Ava never said what she wanted to say. Easy to say when money wasn't a problem. Still, Chloe felt like a gift. Friend. Someone who made the office less cold. Someone who made Ava feel like she belonged somewhere. And Chloe had a brother, Ethan Bennett. Ava didn't see him often at first. Ethan traveled. Meetings. Investors. He was the kind of CEO who lived in motion. But his presence lived in the building like a shadow. People whispered his name like it was a warning. "He fired an entire department in one day," someone once said in the elevator. "He doesn't smile," another person said. "He sees everything," a third whispered. Ava tried not to think about him. Until she saw him. The first time was in the lobby. Ava was carrying a stack of folders, rushing because she was late. The revolving door turned, and suddenly Ethan Bennett was walking in like he owned the air. Broad shoulders. Dark suit that looked like it was stitched onto him. His face was sharp, serious, and unfairly handsome in the way that didn't feel friendly. His eyes swept the lobby like a scanner. Ava froze without meaning to. Ethan's gaze landed on her for a second, and her stomach dipped like she'd missed a step. Then he walked past her without stopping. But the air felt different after. Like the building itself had noticed he was back. Chloe found Ava later and grinned. "Did you see him?" Ava frowned. "Who?" Chloe's grin widened. "My brother. The Ice King." Ava forced a laugh. "Yeah. He looks busy." "He is busy," Chloe said. "But don't be scared. He's not a monster." Ava didn't answer. Because she didn't think he was a monster. Monsters were loud. Ethan Bennett was quiet. And quiet power was always more dangerous. A week later, Chloe invited Ava to a charity gala. Ava said no immediately. I can't afford it, she said. Chloe waved a hand. You don't have to. I'll handle it. Ava's cheeks warmed. Chloe, I can't just. Yes, you can, Chloe said. You're coming. You need a night where you're not counting dollars in your head. Please. Ava should have said no again. But something in her was tired of being responsible. So she said yes. The gala was held at a hotel that looked like it belonged in a movie. Gold lights, tall ceilings, music that floated like silk. Ava felt out of place the second she stepped inside. Chloe looked perfect, of course. She wore a red dress and moved through the crowd like she owned it. Ava wore a black dress she'd bought on sale and hoped no one noticed the cheap fabric. Chloe squeezed her hand. Relax. Tonight you're not poor. Tonight you're mysterious. Ava snorted. Mysterious is one word. They laughed. They drank champagne. Ava's cheeks warmed, her shoulders loosened. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was holding her breath. Then Chloe got pulled away by someone important. Stay right here, she said. Don't run off. Ava nodded. She stood near a balcony, watching the city lights, letting the cool air calm her. Her phone buzzed with a text from the hospital billing office. Another reminder. Another number. Ava's stomach tightened again. She shoved the phone in her clutch and stared out into the night, trying not to cry in a room full of rich people. That's when a voice spoke beside her. You look like you're about to jump. Ava startled and turned. A man stood there, tall, suit jacket unbuttoned, tie loosened like he couldn't breathe in the room either. His face was half in shadow from the balcony light. But his eyes were clear, cold. Ava recognized him instantly. Ethan Bennett. Her heart did something stupid, like it was surprised to be noticed. I'm not going to jump, she said quickly. He studied her like he was deciding if she was lying. You don't look like you belong here, he said. Ava's chin lifted. Neither do you. That got a pause from him. Not a smile but a shift. Like she'd said something unexpected. Fair, he said. Ava's pulse raced. She couldn't understand why he was talking to her. She wasn't important. She wasn't part of this world. But he stood there like he'd chosen her balcony on purpose. You're Chloe's friend, he said. Ava blinked. Yes. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. Ava. The way he said her name was low and direct, like it belonged to him already. Yes, she repeated, confused. That's me. He leaned against the railing. My sister talks about you. Ava's face warmed. I didn't know you listened. I listened to everything, he said simply. It shouldn't have sounded like a threat. But it did. Ava tried to laugh it off. Well, tell your sister she exaggerates. Ethan's gaze didn't leave her. She says you work too hard. Ava's mouth tightened. She says that about everyone. No, he said. She's not worried about everyone. Ava didn't have an answer to that. The music inside swelled. Laughter rose like bubbles. But on the balcony, it felt like the world had shrunk to two people and a storm. Ethan watched her for a long moment. Then he said, Do you want to get out of here? Ava stared. What? His eyes flicked toward the ballroom. It's loud. Fake. People pretend they care while they trade favors. Ava swallowed. I don't. Come with me, he said like it wasn't a question. Ava's common sense screamed. Don't. This is the CEO. This is Chloe's brother. This is dangerous. But Ava's heart was tired. Her mind was tired. And something about Ethan's voice made her feel like she could let go for once. I should find Chloe, Ava said weakly. Ethan's jaw tightened. My sister is fine. Ava hesitated. Ethan held out his hand. Ava stared at it like it was a doorway. Then she took it. His hand was warm, strong. It made her feel safe and reckless at the same time. He led her through a private hallway, away from the noise. The carpet was thick. The lights were dim. Ava's heels sounded too loud. Her heartbeat was louder. They reached an elevator. Ethan pressed a button, and the doors opened without anyone else waiting. Inside, the air felt too close. Ethan stood behind her. She could feel him like heat. Ava stared at the numbers as the elevator rose. She didn't speak. Neither did he. The elevator opened to a private floor. Ava's breath caught. A suite door opened, and Ethan guided her inside. The room was huge, quiet, and dark except for the city lights spilling through tall windows. Ava turned to him, suddenly aware of what this was. "Ethan," she said, voice shaking. He looked at her like he'd been holding something back all night. "I don't do this," he said. Ava blinked. "Do what?" He took a step closer. "Impulse. Mistakes." Ava's throat tightened. "Then why?" "Because you're the first honest thing I've seen in weeks," he said, low and rough. "And I'm tired." Ava's heart clenched. He should have left. She should have walked out and never looked back. But he looked at her like she was air after drowning. Ava whispered, "I'm tired too." For a second, Ethan didn't move. Then his hand came up and cupped her cheek, gentle but firm, like he was making sure she was real. His thumb brushed her skin. Ava's breath shuddered. When he kissed her, it wasn't sweet. It was desperate. Like two lonely people crashing into each other to forget the world. They didn't talk much after that. They didn't need to. That night was heat and quiet and the sound of rain against glass. And for the first time in a long time, Ava didn't feel like she was carrying everything alone. In the morning, sunlight sliced through the curtains. Ava woke up in white sheets that smelled like expensive soap and something warm she couldn't name. She turned her head. The other side of the bed was empty. Her stomach dropped. She sat up quickly, hair messy, heart racing. Ethan's suit jacket was gone. His tie. His shoes. Like he'd never been there at all. Ava pulled the blanket around herself and looked at the room, suddenly embarrassed. Suddenly angry. Course he left. He was Ethan Bennett. He didn't stay. Ava found her dress folded neatly on a chair. Her shoes placed perfectly beside it. On the bedside table was a glass of water. "Thank you for the silence." No name. No number. No explanation. Ava's chest tightened, and she didn't know if she wanted to laugh or cry. She dressed quickly and left the suite like she was sneaking out of someone else's life. She told herself it was a one-time mistake. A night that didn't matter. She told herself she would forget. Then Monday came. Ava walked into the office with her usual tight ponytail and coffee in hand, ready to pretend she was fine. The elevator doors opened, and Ethan Bennett was standing there, waiting to step in. Ava froze. Ethan's eyes flicked to her face. No shock. No apology. Just that cold, calm stare. He stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. Ava's heart hammered as the small space filled with his presence. Chloe stood beside Ava, cheerful as always, scrolling on her phone like nothing was happening. Ethan didn't look at Chloe. He looked at Ava. And in a voice so low only she could hear, he said, "Good morning, Ava." Ava's breath caught. Her cheeks burned. Chloe glanced up. "Morning, Ethan," she chirped. Ethan gave Chloe a brief nod. Then his gaze returned to Ava, like the rest of the world didn't exist. Ava swallowed hard and forced her voice to work. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett." His jaw tightened. "Don't call me that," he said quietly. Ava blinked. Ethan looked forward again as if he hadn't said anything at all. The elevator continued rising. Ava stared at the floor and tried not to shake. Chloe elbowed her lightly and whispered, "He's in one of his moods. Ignore him." Ava forced a nod. But her skin still felt like it remembered his hands. And Ethan Bennett didn't forget. Over the next weeks, Ava tried to keep her distance. She stayed professional, polite, invisible. But Ethan's attention didn't go away. He started appearing in places he never used to appear. In the hallway outside her office. In meetings he didn't need to attend. At the coffee station of all places, standing too close while Ava stirred sugar into her cup with trembling fingers. He never touched her at work. Never crossed a line. But his eyes did. His eyes held too much. One evening, Ava worked late to finish a report. The office was quiet, lights dim, the city outside glowing. She was alone until she heard footsteps. She looked up. Ethan stood in her doorway. Ava's pulse jumped. "You're still here," he said. Ava tried to keep her voice steady. "I have work." Ethan's gaze moved to the stack of papers, then back to her face. "You're exhausted." "I'm fine," Ava lied. Ethan walked in slowly and stopped by her desk. The room felt smaller. "You shouldn't have come," Ava blurted, then regretted it. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "To my own building." Ava swallowed. "That night. You shouldn't have." Ethan's jaw flexed. For the first time, his calm mask slipped, showing something sharp underneath. "I didn't plan it," he said. "I don't make a habit of losing control." Ava's throat tightened. "Then why did you leave?" A silence stretched. Ethan looked away for a moment toward the window. The city lights reflected in his eyes. "Because if I stayed," he said quietly, "I would have wanted more." Ava's breath caught. Ethan turned back to her. "And wanting more is complicated." Ava's heart ached, and she hated herself for it. "Ethan," she whispered, "I'm not your problem to solve." He stepped closer, and Ava had to grip the edge of her desk to stay grounded. "No," he said, voice low. "You're not." His eyes dropped to her lips for a second. Then he straightened, pulling the cold mask back on like armor. "Go home," he said. Ava stared. "What?" Ethan reached into his pocket, pulled out a small card, and placed it on her desk. "Keycard." Ava's eyes widened. "My driver is downstairs," Ethan said. "He'll take you." Ava shook her head. "I can't accept that." Ethan's gaze hardened. "You can. And you will." Ava's cheeks burned. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan paused. For the first time, his voice softened. "Because," he said, "you deserve someone looking out for you." Then he left. Ava sat there, staring at the keycard, feeling something dangerous blooming in her chest. Hope. And hope was the thing that always hurt the most when it broke. After that, the spoiling started. Not in flashy ways at first. Small things. Her favorite coffee waiting on her desk before she arrived, even when she didn't tell anyone what it was. A new office chair when her back had been hurting. A quiet day off approved without her begging, after Ethan overheard her on the phone with her mom, trying not to sound scared. Ava tried to resist. But Ethan Bennett wasn't the kind of man you resisted easily. Chloe noticed, of course. One day at lunch, Chloe leaned in with a grin. "Okay, tell me what's going on." Ava choked on her water. "Nothing is going on." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "My brother doesn't bring people coffee." "He barely brings himself coffee." Ava's face went hot. "It's probably just nice." Chloe laughed. "Ethan isn't nice. He's responsible, controlled, like a robot with abs." Ava almost laughed, but her stomach twisted. Because Chloe didn't know. Chloe didn't know her brother wasn't a robot in the dark. Chloe didn't know Ava had already seen the man behind the mask. Ava forced a smile. "Maybe he's changing." Chloe's grin softened. "If he is, it's because of you." Ava's heart squeezed. She wanted to believe that. But she also knew something else. Power like Ethan's didn't change because of feelings. Power moved for reasons. And Ethan was moving closer to her for a reason she didn't understand yet. Then the first real crack in Ava's life appeared. Started with an email. Ava received a message from payroll. "Payment discrepancy. Please confirm account details." Ava frowned and opened it. Her bank account number was wrong. Not just wrong. Changed. Ava's stomach dropped. She rushed to payroll, but they insisted the request came from her company email. "It was authorized," the payroll manager said, confused. "It came from you." Ava felt cold. "It didn't." She left, shaking, and went straight to IT. They checked her login history. There were logins she didn't recognize. Late at night. From a location she'd never been. Her credentials were being used. Someone was inside her work life, moving things around like chess pieces. Ava walked back to her desk, trying not to panic. She looked up. Victoria Shaw stood near the doorway, watching her. Victoria's smile was small. Perfect. I heard about your little payroll issue, Victoria said. Ava's throat tightened. It's being handled. Victoria's eyes gleamed. I'm sure it is. Mistakes happen when people aren't careful. Ava held Victoria's gaze, forcing herself not to shrink. Are you accusing me of something? Victoria's smile didn't fade. No, Ava. I'm warning you. Ava's spine went cold. People who don't belong in places like this, Victoria said softly, tend to get crushed. It's not personal. It's just reality. Ava's hands curled into fists under her desk. Victoria leaned in slightly. Be smart. Stay small. And maybe you'll survive. Then Victoria walked away like she hadn't just threatened her. Ava sat there, heart racing. She wanted to call Chloe. She wanted to tell someone. But what would she say? Someone is trying to ruin me. They would laugh. They would say she was paranoid. And the worst part was, Ava didn't even know why. Then, 3 nights later, Ava got a call from the hospital. Her mom's treatment was being delayed because of an unpaid balance. Ava's vision blurred. I paid, Ava said, voice trembling. I paid last week. The billing office was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, the payment was reversed. Ava stopped breathing. Reversed. Like someone had reached into her life and pulled the plug. Ava hung up and stared at her phone, shaking. She checked her bank account. Money was missing. Not all of it. Just enough to cause damage. Just enough to make her panic. Ava felt sick. She grabbed her keys and rushed out into the night, driving with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. She didn't know where she was going until she realized she was outside Bennett and Crown's building again. The lobby was mostly empty. Security nodded at her, confused, but let her in. Ava rode the elevator up. Her heart pounded as she walked down the quiet hallway toward the executive wing. She stopped in front of Ethan's office. She hesitated. Then she knocked. A voice came from inside, calm. Come in. Ava stepped into the office, and the scent hit her. Clean wood, leather, something dark and expensive. Ethan looked up from his desk. His eyes sharpened when he saw her face. Ava, he said. What happened? Ava tried to speak, but her throat closed. Ethan stood immediately and walked around the desk. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel him. Talk to me, he said, voice low. Ava's eyes stung. Someone is messing with my accounts, she whispered. My work email. My bank. My mom's payments. I don't know what's happening. Ethan's jaw tightened. His eyes turned dangerous. Who? He asked. Ava shook her head, tears slipping out despite her trying not to. I don't know. I can't prove anything. Ethan's hand came up, not touching her face this time, but hovering like he wanted to and was stopping himself. You're shaking, he said, almost like it made him angry at the world. Ava let out a broken laugh. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be here. I didn't know who else. Ethan stepped closer. Don't apologize, he said. Not for this. Ava wiped her cheek quickly. I'm scared, Ethan. The honesty fell out of her like a confession. Ethan's eyes softened for half a second. Then they hardened again. Come with me, he said. Ava blinked. Where? Ethan picked up his coat. Home. Ava's heart skipped. Ethan, I can't. You can, he said. And you will. Ava stared at him, feeling helpless and angry and relieved all at once. Ethan didn't give her time to argue. He guided her out of the office and into the private elevator. Minutes later, Ava was in a black car, watching the city blur past like a dream. Ethan sat beside her, silent, his jaw tight. Ava whispered, Why are you helping me? Ethan didn't look at her right away. Then he said, Because someone touching your life without permission is a mistake. Ava swallowed. He finally turned his head. And because, he added quietly, I'm not as done with you as I pretended. Ava's chest tightened. The car pulled into a private building downtown. Ethan's penthouse was quiet, warm, and too perfect. Ava stood near the entrance, feeling like she didn't belong. Ethan took her coat gently and hung it up. Then he walked into the kitchen and came back with a glass of water. Drink, he said. Ava took it with trembling hands. Ethan watched her like he was memorizing her fear. Then he said, Show me your phone. Ava hesitated. Ethan's gaze turned firm. Ava. She handed it over. Ethan scrolled through her bank notifications, her email alerts, the hospital messages. His expression went cold. This isn't random, he said. Ava's voice shook. Then why me? Ethan's eyes lifted to hers. And in that moment, Ava realized something that made her stomach drop. Ethan knew more than he was saying. Ava, he said carefully, tell me the truth. That night at the gala, did Chloe bring you? Ava blinked, confused. Yes. Ethan's jaw clenched. Ava's heart pounded. Why? Ethan stared at her for a long moment. Then he said, Because I didn't find you by accident. Ava's breath caught. What do you mean? She whispered. Ethan's voice was low, controlled, but there was something raw underneath. My sister didn't just invite you. She suggested you. Ava's skin went cold. Suggested me for what? Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked away like even he didn't like admitting it. Then he said, For me. Ava's mind spun. Chloe suggested her. Ava's throat tightened. No. Chloe wouldn't. Ethan's gaze snapped back to hers. You don't know my family the way you think you do. Ava felt dizzy. Chloe was her friend. Chloe had defended her. Chloe had held her hand when she was stressed. Chloe had smiled at her every day. Ava whispered, Why would she do that? Ethan's face hardened. Because Chloe wanted something. Ava's voice broke. What? Ethan stepped closer and his voice dropped. She wanted to distract me, he said. And she wanted someone close to you. Someone easy to control. Ava's hands started shaking again. I don't understand. Ethan's eyes narrowed like he was fighting with himself. Then he said, My company is bleeding money. Not from the market. From the inside. Ava stared. Ethan's voice was calm, but the anger behind it was quiet and terrifying. Someone is stealing. Someone high enough to cover their tracks. I've been investigating for months. Ava's heart hammered. And Chloe, Ava whispered. Ethan's jaw flexed. Chloe loves the lifestyle, the parties, the freedom. And she hates being told no. Ava's chest hurt. But she's your sister. Ethan's eyes didn't soften. That doesn't make her innocent. Ava felt like she was falling. Ethan continued. When I got close to finding the leak, Chloe panicked. She thought if she could pull my attention somewhere else, she could buy time. Ava's eyes stung. So she used me. Ethan didn't deny it. Ava's breath shook. And you knew. Ethan's gaze held hers. I suspected. Not until later. That night. I thought I was just making my own mistake. Ava's voice trembled. Then why did you let it happen? Ethan's face tightened like the question hit a place that already hurt. Because, he said, voice rough. I'm still human. Ava stared at him, heart breaking in a new way. Because she'd wanted that night to be real. And maybe it was real, for her. But for them, it had started as someone else's plan. Ava swallowed hard. So now Chloe is punishing me because you didn't break, Ethan cut in. Because you didn't run. Because you stayed in my building and didn't beg. Ava shook her head, tears sliding again. I'm not strong. I'm just tired. Ethan's gaze softened. Strength looks like tired people who keep going, he said quietly. Ava's breath caught. For a moment, the penthouse was silent except for the rain tapping the windows. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, eyes narrowing. Ava whispered, "What is it?" Ethan showed her the screen. A headline. Bennett and Crown employee under investigation for fraud. Ava's photo was attached. Ava's blood ran cold. "That's me," she whispered. Ethan's eyes turned lethal. "They moved fast," he said. Ava's voice cracked. "Ethan, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose everything." Ethan stepped closer. Then he said words that made Ava freeze. "Marry me." Ava blinked, sure she heard wrong. "What?" she whispered. Ethan's voice was steady. "Marry me." Ava's mind spun. "Ethan, are you Ethan continued. "If you become my wife, they can't crush you quietly. They can't frame you without touching my name. They can't make you disappear." Ava's voice trembled. "And what do you get out of it?" Ethan paused. Then he said, "Access." Ava's chest tightened. "To what?" Ethan's eyes held hers, honest in a way that scared her more than lies. "My family trust has legal walls," he said. "The final documents, the controlling shares. They shift only after I'm married." Ava's breath caught. Ethan's voice was low. "And whoever is stealing knows that. They know if I lock down control, their time runs out." Ava stared. Ethan's hand lifted, not touching her but close. "Ava, I need someone I can trust. Someone outside their circle." Ava's eyes stung. "And you think that's me?" Ethan nodded once. "I know it's you." Ava's heart felt like it was tearing in two. Because part of her wanted to scream no. And another part wanted to believe she mattered. Ava whispered, "This is insane." Ethan's voice softened. "I'll take care of your mom's bills. I'll clean your name. I'll make sure no one touches you again." Ava shook her head. "I don't want to be bought." Ethan's eyes flashed. "Then don't be." Ava swallowed. "Ethan, if I do this, what happens after?" Ethan's gaze didn't move. "After we win," he said, "you can walk away." Those words should have made Ava feel safe. Instead they hurt. Because she didn't want to be someone he could walk away from. Ava whispered, "And if I don't want to walk away?" Ethan's face tightened, like that question was the one he didn't want to face. He didn't answer. The silence was an answer by itself. Ava took a shaky breath. She thought of her mom. She thought of the false headline with her face. She thought of Victoria's smile. She thought of Chloe's laughter, and how it could hide teeth. Ava looked at Ethan. And she realized something clear as lightning. If she didn't fight, they would destroy her. And if she fought alone, she would lose. So she whispered, "Okay." Ethan's eyes widened slightly for the first time. Ava said again, stronger, "Okay. I'll marry you." Ethan held her gaze. Then he nodded once, like a man accepting a contract. But his voice was quiet when he said, "Thank you." 2 days later, Ava stood in a small private chapel with white walls and soft light. No big wedding. No family celebration. Just a lawyer, officiant, and Ethan Bennett in a suit that made him look like a king who didn't believe in love. Ava wore a simple dress Chloe helped her pick, because Chloe insisted on being there. That was the hardest part. Chloe stood beside Ava, smiling, eyes bright with excitement. "This is wild," she whispered. "I can't believe my brother is getting married." Ava forced a smile that tasted like ash. Because Chloe was acting like this was a surprise. Like she hadn't started the chain of events. Or maybe she really didn't know what had spiraled out of control. Ava couldn't tell anymore. Ethan stood across from her, face unreadable. When the officiant asked if he took Ava as his wife, Ethan's voice was steady. "I do." Ava's throat tightened. She looked at Ethan's eyes and tried to find warmth. There was something there. Something deep. Not soft but real. Ava whispered, "I do." The ring Ethan slid onto her finger was simple but heavy, like a promise and a warning at the same time. After Ethan signed papers with the lawyer, calm as always, Chloe squealed quietly and hugged Ava. "You're literally my sister now," she whispered. Ava hugged her back stiff. Because Ava didn't know if Chloe was her sister. Or her executioner? That night, Ethan brought Ava back to his penthouse. Ava stood in the doorway to the bedroom, heart racing. This was different now. Ring. Contract. Name. Ethan watched her, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to sleep with me," he said, voice low. Ava blinked, surprised. Ethan continued, "This marriage is legal. But your body is yours. Always." Ava's chest tightened. No one had said that to her in a long time. Ava swallowed. "Thank you." Ethan nodded once. He walked to the closet and pulled out a blanket. "I'll sleep on the couch," he said. Ava's heart jumped. "You don't have to." "I want to," Ethan said simply. Ava watched him leave, blanket in hand, and felt a strange ache. Because she had agreed to a marriage for survival. But Ethan was treating her like she mattered anyway. And that was more dangerous than any threat. The next morning, Ava woke up to the smell of coffee. She walked into the living room and froze. Ethan stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, making breakfast like it was normal. Ava blinked. "You cook?" Ethan didn't look up. "I feed myself." Ava almost laughed. That wasn't the question. Ethan slid a plate toward her. "Toast. Fruit." Ava stared. "This is a lot." Ethan finally looked up, eyes steady. "Eat." Ava sat slowly. Ethan poured her coffee without asking how she took it. Was exactly right. Ava's chest tightened again. "How do you know?" she whispered. Ethan took a sip of his own coffee. "I pay attention." Ava stared at him, a strange warmth spreading through her. Then Ethan said, calm as ever, "Today, you're going to walk into that building with my last name." Ava swallowed. "People will talk." Ethan's eyes were cold. "Let them." Ava's voice shook. "Victoria will." "I'm counting on it," Ethan said. Ava blinked. Ethan's gaze sharpened. "The fastest way to make a thief move is to block the exit." Ava's pulse raced. So that's what she was. Ava's stomach tightened. But then Ethan said something that made her look up. "And the fastest way to protect you," he added, "is to make sure everyone knows you're under my shield." Ava's throat tightened. "Shield. Not leash. Not property. Shield." Ava nodded slowly. "Okay." At work the shock was immediate. People stared. Whispers followed Ava like smoke. Chloe walked beside her, grinning like this was the best gossip ever. "Mrs. Bennett," someone said, stunned as Ava passed. Ava's cheeks burned. Ethan strode through the office later, and the whole floor went silent like a storm cloud moved in. He stopped at Ava's desk. In front of everyone he placed a small box down. Ava stared at it, confused. Ethan's voice was calm. "For you." Ava's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a sleek new phone. Ava blinked. "Ethan." Ethan leaned in slightly, voice low so only she could hear. "New device. New security. They won't get in again." Ava's throat tightened. He straightened and looked around the office, eyes sweeping like a warning to anyone watching. Then he walked away. Ava sat there, heart pounding, feeling something she didn't expect. Foil. Not with jewelry. Not with money. With protection. With attention. With a man who didn't show love like a song, but like a fortress. But the enemy didn't stay quiet. 2 days after the marriage announcement, Ava was called into HR. Victoria sat in the room, smiling. HR slid papers across the table. Ava's stomach dropped as she read them. Formal notice. Investigation ongoing. Temporary suspension without pay. Ava's throat tightened. "This is..." Victoria's voice was sweet. "It's policy, Ava. Or should I say, Mrs. Bennett." Victoria tilted her head. "Because you should have known your place." Ava's nails dug into her palms. Then the door opened. Ethan walked in. The room went still. Sure looked like they wanted to disappear. Victoria's smile faltered for half a second. Ethan's gaze moved to the papers, then to Ava's face. "Stand up," he said gently to Ava. Ava blinked. "What?" Ethan held his hand out. Ava took it, rising. Ethan turned to HR. She isn't suspended. HR stammered. Mr. Bennett, the policy. Ethan's eyes turned icy. I am the policy. Victoria laughed softly. Ethan, you can't just. Ethan's gaze snapped to Victoria. You, he said, voice calm but deadly, are done speaking. Victoria's smile tightened. Excuse me. Ethan leaned forward slightly, eyes locked on hers. One more move against my wife, he said quietly, and I'll open every file you've ever hidden. The air in the room froze. Victoria's eyes flickered. Fear. Just for a moment. Ava saw it. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Victoria's smile returned, strained. You're being emotional. Ethan's face didn't change. No, he said. I'm being clear. He took Ava's hand and walked her out. In the hallway, Ava's breath shook. Ethan, she whispered. I'm ruining your life. Ethan stopped and turned to her. His eyes softened slightly. You're not ruining anything, he said. You're exposing it. Ava's throat tightened. He lifted his hand and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Careful, like she was something fragile. Let them come, Ethan murmured. I'm ready. That afternoon, Ethan took Ava home. He didn't send her away. He didn't treat her like a secret. He brought her into his life like she belonged there. He set up a private office space for her in the penthouse. He brought in a laptop with new security. He introduced her to a lawyer with eyes like steel. And every day, in quiet ways, Ethan spoiled her. He had groceries delivered. Healthy, fresh, expensive things Ava would have never bought for herself. He sent a nurse to check on her mom's care and make sure the hospital didn't delay anything again. He left a soft blanket on the couch because he noticed Ava always got cold. He listened when she spoke, like every word mattered. Ava didn't know how to handle it. She'd spent her whole life feeling like love was something you had to earn. But Ethan didn't make her earn it. He just gave. And that was when Ava made her own decision. If Ethan was fighting for her, she would fight too. One night, while Ava's throat was tight, her voice shook. Chloe, why? Chloe's expression hardened. For a second, her mask fell off. And what was underneath wasn't sunshine. It was something sharp and ugly. You were never supposed to be more than a distraction, Chloe hissed. Ava felt like she'd been slapped. Chloe's eyes flashed. He was supposed to sleep with you, get it out of his system and go back to work. That's it. Ava's eyes stung. Ethan's jaw clenched. Chloe stood up, trembling with anger now that the secret was out. You think you're special. Chloe spat at Ava. You're just convenient. Or desperate. Easy to throw around. Ava's hands clenched. Her voice shook. I trusted you. Chloe laughed bitterly. That was your mistake. Ethan's voice cut through like ice. Enough. Chloe spun toward him. You're choosing her over me. Ethan's gaze was cold. I'm choosing truth over lies. Chloe's eyes filled with furious tears. I'm your sister. Ethan's voice stayed calm, but it was deadly. And you used that to think you could do anything. Chloe's breath shook. You don't understand. Victoria made me. Ava froze. Victoria. Chloe's eyes widened slightly like she realized she'd said too much. Ethan stepped forward slowly. Victoria Shaw. Chloe swallowed hard. Ethan's voice dropped. Tell me everything. Chloe's shoulders shook, pride cracking under pressure. She said if you took full control, she'd lose everything, Chloe whispered. She said the company would change. That our lifestyle would change. She promised me a cut. Ava's stomach churned. Chloe looked at Ava, eyes wild. It wasn't supposed to get so big. I just wanted you to leave. Ava's voice broke. You reversed my mom's payment. Chloe flinched. I didn't know it was your mom. I swear. Ava's tears fell. You didn't care. Chloe's face twisted. I cared about me. Ethan's eyes turned lethal. He pulled out his phone and made a call, calm as ever. Now, Ethan said quietly into the phone. Execute phase 2. Chloe's eyes widened. What are you doing? Ethan ended the call and looked at her. Ending this, he said. Within minutes, Ethan's legal team arrived downstairs. Security came. A private investigator Ethan had hired months ago walked in with a tablet. Ethan turned the tablet toward Chloe. On it were bank transfers, messages, recorded calls. Chloe's face drained. Ethan's voice was quiet. We have everything. Chloe's knees buckled slightly. Ava's heart pounded. Ethan looked at Chloe, eyes like stone. You didn't just betray me, he said. You tried to destroy an innocent person. Chloe's voice cracked. Ethan, please. Ethan didn't move. No. Chloe's tears fell. I'm sorry. Ethan's face didn't soften. You're sorry you got caught. Chloe's sob turned into anger again. She looked at Ava like Ava was the reason her life was falling apart. This is your fault, Chloe spat. You ruined everything. Ava's chest tightened. Then Ava spoke, and her voice was shaking but clear. No, Ava said. You ruined everything. I just finally stopped letting you. Chloe's expression twisted. Security stepped forward. Chloe screamed at Ethan. You're going to regret this. Ethan's eyes didn't blink. I already regret not stopping you sooner. They escorted Chloe out. The penthouse fell silent again. Ava stood there, shaking, tears drying on her cheeks. Ethan walked toward her slowly. Ava whispered, I feel sick. Ethan's voice softened. I know. Ava looked up at him, heart breaking. She was my friend. Ethan's gaze held hers. I'm sorry. Ava let out a shaky breath. What about Victoria? Ethan's eyes turned cold again. Victoria's next. The next day, Ethan walked into the company headquarters like a storm in human form. Ava stood beside him, wearing a simple dress and the ring that felt heavier now. The board meeting was called. Victoria sat at the table, posture perfect, smile practiced. When Ethan entered, the room went silent. Victoria's eyes flickered to Ava with a look of pure hate. Ethan didn't sit. He placed a folder on the table. Then another. Then another. Victoria's smile tightened. What is this? Ethan's voice was calm. You're ending. Victoria laughed lightly. Ethan, you can't intimidate me. Ethan's gaze was cold. I'm not intimidating you. I'm exposing you. He nodded to the investigator, who turned on a screen. Bank transfers appeared. Offshore accounts. Fake vendors. Invoices. Years of theft hiding under perfect paperwork. Victoria's face went pale. The board members stared, stunned. Victoria snapped. This is forged. Ethan's voice stayed even. It's traced, verified, and recorded. Victoria's eyes darted around the table, searching for allies. But no one spoke. Because numbers don't care about loyalty. Victoria's voice rose, desperate. You can't prove I. Ethan held up a hand. Actually, Ethan said calm. You already proved it. He clicked a remote. A recording played. Victoria's voice filled the room. Smooth, confident, talking about moving money and framing Ava. Ava's stomach turned hearing it. Victoria's face drained of all color. The chair of the board stood slowly, shaking. Victoria, is this true? Victoria's lips trembled. Then she snapped, eyes wild. You people are fools. This company runs because of me. Ethan's gaze was ice. It ran because you were stealing from it. Victoria's breath shook. She stood suddenly, pointing at Ava. This is because of her. Victoria screamed. Because you married your little charity case. Ava flinched. Ethan moved instantly, stepping in front of Ava like a wall. He leaned forward slightly and spoke so quietly the room went still to hear him. Say her name again, Ethan murmured, and you'll learn what fear feels like. Victoria's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no words. Security entered. Victoria was escorted out while she screamed and cursed and threatened. Ava stood there, shaking, and watched karma do its work. Not in a dramatic lightning strike. In handcuffs. In evidence. In consequences. When it was over, the board sat in stunned silence. The chair cleared his throat. "Mrs. Bennett, we owe you an apology." Ava's throat tightened. She didn't trust her voice. Ethan spoke instead. "You owe her more than an apology. You owe her name back." Ava's heart pounded. The chair nodded. "We will issue a public correction." Ethan's gaze swept the room. "And if anyone ever tries to touch her career again," he said calmly, "you'll be dealing with me." No one argued. After the meeting, Ava walked out into the sunlight with Ethan beside her. The world felt unreal. Ava whispered, "It's over." Ethan glanced at her. "The fight is." Ava's chest tightened. "And us." Ethan didn't answer right away. They reached his car. Ethan opened the door for her. A simple gesture that somehow felt like a promise. Ava sat, hands shaking slightly. Ethan got in beside her. The car started moving. Ava stared out the window, then finally whispered, "You said I could walk away after we win." Ethan's jaw tightened. Ava turned to him, heart pounding. "Do you want me to?" Ethan's eyes stayed forward for a moment. Then he turned his head slowly, looking at her like she was the only thing in the world. "I didn't marry you to own you," he said quietly. "I married you to protect you." Ava's throat tightened. "And now?" Ethan's voice dropped. "Now I'm in trouble." Ava blinked. "Why?" Ethan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Almost." "Because," he said, "somewhere between protecting you and watching you stand up to my sister, I stopped thinking of this as a contract." Ava's breath caught. Victoria tilted her head. "Because you should have known your place." Ava's nails dug into her palms. Then the door opened. Ethan walked in. The room went still. Sure looked like they wanted to disappear. Victoria's smile faltered for half a second. Ethan's gaze moved to the papers, then to Ava's face. "Stand up," he said gently to Ava. Ava blinked. "What?" Ethan held his hand out. Ava took it, rising. Ethan turned to HR. "She isn't suspended." Char stammered. "Mr. Bennett, the policy." Ethan's eyes turned icy. "I am the policy." Victoria laughed softly. "Ethan, you can't just." Ethan's gaze snapped to Victoria. "You," he said, voice calm but deadly, "are done speaking." Victoria's smile tightened. "Excuse me." Ethan leaned forward slightly, eyes locked on hers. "One more move against my wife," he said quietly, "and I'll open every file you've ever hidden." The air in the room froze. Victoria's eyes flickered. Fear. Just for a moment. Ava saw it. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Victoria's smile returned, strained. "You're being emotional." Ethan's face didn't change. "No," he said. "I'm being clear." He took Ava's hand and walked her out. In the hallway, Ava's breath shook. "Ethan," she whispered, "I'm ruining your life." Ethan stopped and turned to her. His eyes softened slightly. "You're not ruining anything," he said. "You're exposing it." Ava's throat tightened. He lifted his hand and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Careful, like she was something fragile. "Let them come," Ethan murmured. "I'm ready." That afternoon, Ethan took Ava home. He didn't send her away. He didn't treat her like a secret. He brought her into his life like she belonged there. He set up a private office space for her in the penthouse. He brought in a laptop with new security. He introduced her to a lawyer with eyes like steel. And every day, in quiet ways, Ethan spoiled her. He had groceries delivered. Healthy, fresh, expensive things Ava would have never bought for herself. He sent a nurse to check on her mom's care and make sure the hospital didn't delay anything again. He left a soft blanket on the couch because he noticed Ava always got cold. He listened when she spoke like every word mattered. Ava didn't know how to handle it. She'd spent her whole life feeling like love was something you had to earn. But Ethan didn't make her earn it. He just gave. And that was when Ava made her own decision. If Ethan was fighting for her, she would fight too. One night, while Ethan worked in his office, Ava sat at her laptop and started digging. She reviewed the company's systems. She followed the money trail. She watched patterns. She wasn't a tech genius, but she was smart. And she was stubborn. Hours passed. Then Ava noticed something. The false logins into her account came from a server route connected to a private executive network. Not general staff. Executive. Ava's pulse raced. She traced the access permissions. Her stomach dropped when she saw a name. Chloe Bennett. Executive access authorization. Ava stared at the screen, frozen. Chloe had access. Chloe could have changed Ava's accounts. Chloe could have used Ava's credentials. Chloe could have reversed her mom's payment. Ava's throat tightened. Well, Chloe wouldn't. But the evidence was there, cold and digital, not caring about feelings. Ava's hands trembled as she saved screenshots. Her heart pounded as she stood up and walked toward Ethan's office. She hesitated at the door. Then she knocked softly. Ethan's voice came from inside. Come in. Ava stepped in. Ethan looked up from his desk, eyes tired but sharp. What is it? Ava's throat was tight. I found something. Ethan's expression changed instantly. Show me. Ava handed him the laptop. Ethan's eyes scanned the screen. His jaw tightened. The muscle in his cheek jumped. He didn't speak for a long time. Ava whispered. It points to Chloe. Ethan's gaze stayed on the screen. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and controlled. I know. Ava stared. You know. Ethan looked up at her. His eyes were heavy. I've suspected for months, he said. Chloe has always been reckless. But this isn't just reckless. Ava's voice broke. She's my friend. Ethan's gaze softened slightly. I know. Ava swallowed hard. Then why did you let her near me? Ethan's face tightened. Because I needed to see how far she would go. Ava's chest hurt. Using me. Ethan stood, stepping closer. No, he said firmly. Protecting you. By keeping you close where I could watch. Ava shook her head, tears burning again. It doesn't feel like protection when it hurts. Ethan's eyes held hers, and for the first time, Ava saw guilt there. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Ava froze. Ethan Bennett didn't apologize. But he just did. Ava's breath shook. What happens now? Ethan's gaze turned cold again. Now, he said, we end it. The trap was set. Ethan didn't go after Chloe immediately. He didn't accuse her. Instead, he invited Chloe to dinner at the penthouse. Chloe arrived wearing a bright smile and a designer coat, acting like nothing was wrong. Ava! Chloe squealed, hugging her. Look at you, Mrs. Bennett. I still can't believe it. Ava forced herself to hug back, stomach twisting. Ethan stood behind Ava, hand resting lightly on her lower back, steady and warm. Chloe's eyes flickered to his hand, just for a second. Small thing. But Ava noticed. Jealousy. Or fear. Dinner was calm. To come. Chloe laughed. Ethan barely spoke. Ava watched Chloe's hands. Her eyes. The way she avoided looking directly at Ethan too long. After dessert, Ethan poured drinks and said casually, I'm moving forward with the trust documents. Chloe's laughter froze for half a second. Oh, that's fast. Ethan's gaze was calm. Marriage tends to speed things up. Chloe sipped her drink quickly. So, what does that mean? Ethan leaned back, eyes unreadable. It means I'll have full control of the company by next week. Chloe's fingers tightened around her glass. Ava's heart pounded. Ethan continued, voice smooth. And it means whoever has been stealing from inside won't have anywhere left to hide. Chloe's smile stayed on her face, but her eyes changed. Stealing, she repeated lightly. You think someone is stealing? Ethan's gaze was sharp. I don't think. I know. Chloe laughed, but it sounded thin. Wow. That's intense. Ethan didn't smile. It is. Chloe's eyes flicked to Ava, and for a second Ava saw it. Not warmth. Calculation. Chloe leaned forward and said sweetly, Ava, you look tired. Are you okay? Ava forced a smile. I'm fine. Chloe's eyes lingered like she was searching for weakness. Ethan stood then calm. Chloe, I need you to sign something. Chloe blinked. What? Ethan walked to his desk and picked up a folder. He handed it to Chloe. Chloe frowned as she opened it. Her face changed as she read. Ava's heart pounded. Chloe looked up sharply. This is restricting my access. Ethan's voice was calm. Yes. Chloe's smile faltered. Why would you do that? Ethan's gaze was cold. Because you've abused it. Chloe's laugh came out sharp. Ethan, what are you accusing me of? Ethan's eyes didn't blink. Fraud. Of framing my wife. The room went silent. Chloe's face went pale, then flushed red. Ava's chest tightened, pain mixing with rage. Chloe snapped the folder shut. That's insane. Ethan's voice stayed even. Is it? Chloe's eyes darted to Ava. Ava, tell him. Tell him he's wrong. Ava's throat was tight. Her voice shook. Chloe, why? Chloe's expression hardened. For a second her mask fell off. And what was underneath wasn't sunshine. It was something sharp and ugly. You were never supposed to be more than a distraction, Chloe hissed. Ava felt like she'd been slapped. Chloe's eyes flashed. He was supposed to sleep with you, get it out of his system and go back to work. That's it. Ava's eyes stung. Ethan's jaw clenched. Chloe stood up, trembling with anger now that the secret was out. You think you're special. Chloe spat at Ava. You're just convenient. Or desperate. Easy to throw around. Ava's hands clenched. Her voice shook. I trusted you. Chloe laughed bitterly. That was your mistake. Ethan's voice cut through like ice. Enough. Chloe spun toward him. You're choosing her over me. Ethan's gaze was cold. I'm choosing truth over lies. Chloe's eyes filled with furious tears. I'm your sister. Ethan's voice stayed calm, but it was deadly. And you used that to think you could do anything. Chloe's breath shook. You don't understand. Victoria made me. Ava froze. Victoria. Chloe's eyes widened slightly like she realized she'd said too much. Ethan stepped forward slowly. Victoria Shaw. Chloe swallowed hard. Ethan's voice dropped. Tell me everything. Chloe's shoulders shook, pride cracking under pressure. She said if you took full control she'd lose everything, Chloe whispered. She said the company would change. That our lifestyle would change. She promised me a cut. Ava's stomach churned. Chloe looked at Ava, eyes wild. It wasn't supposed to get so big. I just wanted you to leave. Ava's voice broke. You reversed my mom's payment. Chloe flinched. I didn't know it was your mom. I swear. Ava's tears fell. You didn't care. Chloe's face twisted. I cared about me. Ethan's eyes turned lethal. He pulled out his phone and made a call, calm as ever. Now, Ethan said quietly into the phone. Execute phase 2. Chloe's eyes widened. What are you doing? Ethan ended the call and looked at her. Ending this, he said. Within minutes, Ethan's legal team arrived downstairs. Security came. A private investigator Ethan had hired months ago walked in with a tablet. Ethan turned the tablet toward Chloe. On it were bank transfers, messages, recorded calls. Chloe's face drained. Ethan's voice was quiet. We have everything. Chloe's knees buckled slightly. Ava's heart pounded. Ethan looked at Chloe, eyes like stone. You didn't just betray me, he said. You tried to destroy an innocent person. Chloe's voice cracked. Ethan, please. Ethan didn't move. No. Chloe's tears fell. I'm sorry. Ethan's face didn't soften. You're sorry you got caught. Chloe's sob turned into anger again. She looked at Ava like Ava was the reason her life was falling apart. This is your fault, Chloe spat. You ruined everything. Ava's chest tightened. Then Ava spoke, and her voice was shaking but clear. No, Ava said. You ruined everything. I just finally stopped letting you. Chloe's expression twisted. Security stepped forward. Chloe screamed at Ethan. You're going to regret this. Ethan's eyes didn't blink. I already regret not stopping you sooner. They escorted Chloe out. The penthouse fell silent again. Ava stood there, shaking, tears drying on her cheeks. Ethan walked toward her slowly. Ava whispered, I feel sick. Ethan's voice softened. I know. Ava looked up at him, heartbreaking. She was my friend. Ethan's gaze held hers. I'm sorry. Ava let out a shaky breath. What about Victoria? Ethan's eyes turned cold again. Victoria's next. The next day, Ethan walked into the company headquarters like a storm in human form. Ava stood beside him, wearing a simple dress and the ring that felt heavier now. The board meeting was called. Victoria sat at the table, posture perfect, smile practiced. When Ethan entered, the room went silent. Victoria's eyes flickered to Ava with a look of pure hate. Ethan didn't sit. He placed a folder on the table. Then another. Then another. Victoria's smile tightened. What is this? Ethan's voice was calm. Your ending. Victoria laughed lightly. Ethan, you can't intimidate me. Ethan's gaze was cold. I'm not intimidating you. I'm exposing you. He nodded to the investigator, who turned on a screen. Bank transfers appeared. Offshore accounts. Fake vendors. Invoices. Years of theft hiding under perfect paperwork. Victoria's face went pale. The board members stared, stunned. Victoria snapped. This is forged. Ethan's voice stayed even. It's traced, verified, and recorded. Victoria's eyes darted around the table, searching for allies. But no one spoke. Because numbers don't care about loyalty. Victoria's voice rose, desperate. You can't prove I. Ethan held up a hand. Actually, Ethan said calm. You already proved it. He clicked a remote. A recording played. Victoria's voice filled the room. Smooth, confident, talking about moving money and framing Ava. Ava's stomach turned hearing it. Victoria's face drained of all color. The chair of the board stood slowly, shaking. Victoria, is this true? Victoria's lips trembled. Then she snapped, eyes wild. You people are fools. This company runs because of me. Ethan's gaze was ice. It ran because you were stealing from it. Victoria's breath shook. She stood suddenly, pointing at Ava. This is because of her. Victoria screamed. Because you married your little charity case. Ava flinched. Ethan moved instantly, stepping in front of Ava like a wall. He leaned forward slightly and spoke so quietly the room went still to hear him. Say her name again, Ethan murmured, and you'll learn what fear feels like. Victoria's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no words. Security entered. Victoria was escorted out while she screamed and cursed and threatened. Ava stood there, shaking, and watched karma do its work. Not in a dramatic lightning strike. In handcuffs. In evidence. In consequences. When it was over, the board sat in stunned silence. The chair cleared his throat. Mrs. Bennett, we owe you an apology. Ava's throat tightened. She didn't trust her voice. Ethan spoke instead. You owe her more than an apology. You owe her her name back. Ava's heart pounded. The chair nodded. We will issue a public correction. Ethan's gaze swept the room. And if anyone ever tries to touch her career again, he said calmly, you'll be dealing with me. No one argued. After the meeting, Ava walked out into the sunlight with Ethan beside her. The world felt unreal. Ava whispered, "It's over." Ethan glanced at her. "The fight is." Ava's chest tightened. "And yes." Ethan didn't answer right away. They reached his car. Ethan opened the door for her. A simple gesture that somehow felt like a promise. Ava sat, hands shaking slightly. Ethan got in beside her. The car started moving. Ava stared out the window, then finally whispered, "You said I could walk away after we win." Ethan's jaw tightened. Ava turned to him, heart pounding. "Do you want me to?" Ethan's eyes stayed forward for a moment. Then he turned his head slowly, looking at her like she was the only thing in the world. "I didn't marry you to own you," he said quietly. "I married you to protect you." Ava's throat tightened. "And now?" Ethan's voice dropped. "Now I'm in trouble." Ava blinked. "Why?" Ethan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Almost." "Because," he said, "somewhere between protecting you and watching you stand up to my sister, I stopped thinking of this as a contract." Ava's breath caught. Ethan leaned closer, voice low. "And I don't know how to go back." Ava's eyes stung. She whispered, "I don't want you to." Ethan stared at her like he was afraid to believe her. Ava swallowed. "That night at the gala, I thought you'd disappear and I'd be nothing but a mistake." Ethan's eyes softened. Ava continued, voice shaking but steady. "But you didn't treat me like a mistake. Not even when this started as a mess." Ethan's hand came up slowly and took hers. His grip was warm. "Real." Ava's chest tightened. Ethan murmured, "You're not a mistake." Ava whispered, "Then what am I?" Ethan's gaze held hers. Then he said the one thing Ava didn't expect from the strict CEO. "My home." Ava's breath shuddered. Tears slipped out again, but these were different. Not fear. Relief. Ethan's thumb brushed her knuckles gently, like he was learning how to be soft. "I'm not good at this," he admitted quietly. "Feelings. Words." Ava gave a shaky laugh. "I noticed." Ethan's mouth twitched again. Then he leaned in, forehead resting lightly against hers. "But I can learn," he whispered. "If you'll let me." Ava closed her eyes, heart full. "I'll let you," she whispered. From that day, Ethan spoiled her daily. Not in the way people expected. Yes, there were gifts. A new coat when winter hit. A bracelet left on her nightstand with no note, just because he noticed she liked simple things. But the real spoiling was deeper. He made sure her mom got the best care, quietly, without making Ava beg. He sat with Ava on the couch at night, letting her talk about her fears, her past, her dreams she'd buried. He listened like it mattered. He surprised her with small joys. A book she mentioned once, a playlist he made because he noticed she liked calm music when she worked. He learned her. And Ava learned him too. She learned that Ethan's strictness wasn't cruelty. It was survival. Childhood where love was tied to performance. A family where loyalty came with conditions. Ethan had built himself into a fortress because he didn't trust anyone not to hurt him. Until Ava. And karma didn't just punish Chloe and Victoria. Karma taught Ethan too. It taught him that control without love was empty. It taught Ava that kindness didn't have to be earned with suffering. Months later, Ava stood in the kitchen of the penthouse, stirring sauce while Ethan chopped vegetables beside her. He wore a simple shirt, sleeves rolled up. The CEO of a billion-dollar company. Cooking dinner like a normal man. Ava smiled. "If anyone at work saw you like this, they'd faint." Ethan didn't look up. "Let them." Ava laughed softly. Ethan glanced at her, eyes warm now in a way they hadn't been before. He said quietly, "I spoke to Chloe today." Ava froze slightly. "How is she?" Ethan's expression was serious. "She's paying for what she did." Ava swallowed. "Do you forgive her?" Ethan paused. Then he said, "I don't know." Ava nodded slowly. Ethan continued, voice calm. "But I know this. If I hadn't faced the truth, if I had kept pretending family meant automatic loyalty, It would have destroyed me. Ava's chest tightened. Ethan reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. And it would have destroyed you, he added. Ava whispered. I'm still hurt. Ethan nodded. You're allowed to be. Ava stared at him. Sometimes I feel stupid. For trusting her. Ethan's gaze was steady. Trusting isn't stupidity. It's courage. The wrong people just don't deserve it. Ava's eyes stung. Ethan leaned in and kissed her forehead, soft and careful. Ava closed her eyes, feeling safe. Later that night, they stood on the balcony, the city lights below like a sea of stars. Ava leaned into Ethan's side. Ethan's arm wrapped around her, strong and warm. Ava whispered, Do you ever think about how this started? Ethan's mouth twitched. Too often. Ava smiled slightly. A one-night mistake. Ethan's voice was low. It wasn't a mistake. Ava looked up at him. Ethan's eyes held hers. It was messy, he admitted. It was reckless. And it should have been just one night. Ava swallowed. But it wasn't. Ethan's thumb brushed her cheek. No, he murmured. It became my life. Ava's heart swelled. She whispered. And what about the contract? The deal? Ethan's gaze was steady. It ended the moment you chose to stay. Ava's breath caught. Ethan's voice softened. And I don't want you to stay because you need protection. Ava whispered. Then why? Ethan's eyes warmed. Because I need you, he said simply. Not to save me. Just to be here. Ava's throat tightened. She leaned in and kissed him, slow and honest. Not desperate like the first time. Not rushed like survival. This was choice. This was love built out of ashes. And in the end, Ava understood the life lesson she'd been forced to learn. Some people will smile at you while holding a knife behind their back. Some people will call you friend while using you as a tool. But karma has a way of clearing the room. It removes the masks. It drags secrets into the light. And if you keep your heart steady, if you refuse to shrink, if you refuse to become bitter like the people who hurt you, then karma doesn't just punish them. It rewards you. Ava had walked into a storm and thought she would drown. Instead, she found a man who built a roof over her head. Not with promises. With actions. Not with sweet words. With daily care. And the strict CEO who once looked like ice learned how to be warm. Because the right person doesn't just spoil you with gifts. They spoil you with safety. With respect. With the kind of love that makes your nervous system finally relax, like your body is saying, okay, we're home now. So if you're listening to this and you've ever been betrayed, ever been used, ever been made to feel small, remember this. You don't have to stay small. You don't have to accept crumbs. And you don't have to take revenge with your hands. Sometimes the strongest revenge is simply rising. Living well. Becoming untouchable. Because karma is real. And it doesn't miss. If you believe in karma, if you believe the truth always finds its way out, then hit subscribe because these stories aren't just drama. They're reminders that the world may try to break you, but the right ending is still possible.